The summer, always slow for new releases. However, there have been a number of new releases over the past few weeks that are notable, and today we're going to talk about those watches. So, without further ado, let's talk about new and notable watch releases that you should know about. One of the most recent releases on this list, a watch that hasn't actually gone up for sale yet, is a new Grown. They're coming out with two new watches that are a classic and a quirky side of their watchmaking. Of course, this comes from the Gronefeld brothers, who make very high-end watches that cost in the tens of thousands of dollars, but this is sort of like their Mad 1. It's their affordable watch that you can get for a very good price, but gets a lot of the characteristics of their more expensive offerings. This will be available on August 13th. They're a limited edition of 188 each. It's a 39mm case, and now you are getting a beautiful display case back on this watch, and it has a La Joux-Perret hand-wound movement. It's actually pretty nicely finished. You get a small seconds, which is raised and stepped. The quirky gets a bright orange dial with baby blue accents, and the classic, and I really love the classic, this one is so tempting, is more of a refined salmon dial with a sunray finish. It is gorgeous. You get applied indices. These look like Gronfelds to me. You're getting a lot of that styling, a lot of the coloration. I do see the appeal of the quirky one, the orange. I really love that classic, and the price on this is $2,700 USD. So if you want a watch that looks really good from a brand that makes very high-end watches usually, obviously this is one of the few brands where you can get that. And I definitely recommend checking these out. August 13th is when they go up for sale, and usually these do sell out. If you love the watches that I talk about here on my channel, you're really going to love the website that I'm about to tell you about. It's called Wrist Rebels. Wrist Rebels is a website that has all of those small micro brands and independent brands that are really hard to find, all in one place. Brands like Sika Design, Mon, Formex, Awake, and Beau Blue, and many other brands you won't find anywhere else. Definitely check out Wrist Rebels at wristrebels.com. Also check out their Instagram at Wrist Rebels. And if you end up buying something, tell them that WatchChris sent you. Next is one of the more affordable watches on this list, and it is from Citizen. This is a $450 Eco Drive. This is the ProMaster Dive. This has been a redesign of the ProMaster Dive. It comes in at 40.6 millimeters. So I guess they call this a 41 millimeter, but it's right in between 41 and 40 millimeters, which is a great size. Eco Drive, like I mentioned, plus or minus 15 seconds per year, so a very accurate movement, 12 months of power reserve on a full charge. And of course, these watches are charged by any light. So the light in your office or sunlight can charge these watches. 200 meters of water resistance, $450 like I mentioned. It comes in three different variants. The blue Fume dial is beautiful. It reminds me a lot of the Hydro Conquest from Longines. Actually, all of these watches remind me of the Hydro Conquest a lot. It looks a lot more expensive than it actually is, and that $450 price point is pretty good because you are getting a really nice watch here. White dial with a black bezel, that looks really good. The traditional black bezel and black dial, that one looks really good as well, but the other two, the white dial and the blue dial, are my favorites. Specifically that blue Fume dial, I think that is the one to get. Really good looking watches, and obviously it's a Citizen, so very reliable, very well made. There were so many Timex releases that it would be really hard for me to name all of the Timex releases on this video, but there have been a number. Number one was the Atelier version of their chronograph. So they came out with the Timex Atelier chronograph that starts at $700. It tops out around $2,500, I believe, for the automatic version. Really good looking watch. Lots of the characteristics that you come to expect from that skeletonized case, a black dial. These are phenomenal. The quartz versions for $700 are a bargain. Obviously, the more expensive versions get an automatic movement. I believe that is a Valjoux 7750 or a Sellita SW510. Those are more expensive, but considering what you're getting, they are still priced really well. One of the watches that really stood out to me was the new Deepwater Reef GMT on their multi-link bracelet. This looks incredible. You're also getting a bi-colored dial, lots of different colors for the dial. So they're making a green version, a blue version, and I believe a black version. These look fantastic, and they are getting a NH34. So this is a Seiko movement inside a Seiko GMT. So this will work like a collar GMT. Price on these are around $549. That's on the bracelet. An excellent price for this watch, and you are getting a sapphire crystal. 200 meters of water resistance, and they are 42 millimeters. Excellent watches for the price, and they've just out Seiko'd Seiko by making this watch. I think this is way better than the Seiko 5 GMT, hands down. Honorable mention here, they also came out with a Marlin Jet GMT. The Marlin Jet is a really good looking watch. The Marlin Jet GMT, obviously a very good looking watch as well. Definitely check out this watch if you want a more traditional GMT. It is gorgeous as well. I would go with the Deepwater if you're specifically looking for a GMT because it works so much better as a GMT versus the Jet, which I think looks better as a time only in my opinion. But those are just three Timex releases, and they've come out with so many awesome watches over the past few weeks. The next brand I want to talk about is Mito. Mito came out with the Ocean Star 200. This was a revamped version of the Ocean Star 200. It gets, of course, a Powermatic 80, so 80 hours of power reserve, sapphire crystal. These are around 40 millimeters. You get a very large bezel, a very large chapter ring on here, and a very small dial area. Beautiful bracelet on the fly micro adjust that is also, of course, a diver's extension, and these are under $1,000. Really nicely made bracelets on here as well. And then, of course, the Multifort 8 one crown. So they came out with a one crown version of the dual crown. It's essentially the same watch. You get 100 meters of water resistance. You get, of course, a Powermatic 80 inside. So you're getting a movement with 80 hours of power reserve. This gets a beautiful dial as well. And again, under $1,000 for this watch. Sapphire crystals. This one does not get on the fly micro adjust or any sort of adjustability in the clasp on this bracelet because it is a butterfly clasp. With that being said, I still think it's worth $1,000, and I think it's one of the best looking integrated bracelet watches that's affordable that you can get right now. 38 millimeters really wears nice and close to the wrist because it's thin. Overall, a great watch. One of my favorite watches of the year was the new Bremont Supernova that came out just a few months ago around Watches and Wonders. That was the chronograph with a really cool loomed dial. Now they've come out with a Stephen Hawking limited edition. This is a limited edition of 600 pieces, and it is dedicated to Stephen Hawking. It's still a 41 millimeter all DLC case. I believe the original one was not DLC coated, so this one is getting a black DLC coating. It gets the BC77, which is essentially a Sellita base, an SW500. So it gets a standard Sellita chronograph movement inside that is modified. However, they have put a really cool black hole inspired case back. So the sapphire crystal on the case back has a black hole, a swirling black hole motif, and it looks so good from the back. Obviously, the whole entire watch is inspired by black holes because Stephen Hawking, obviously, he did a lot of research on black holes, and this watch looks really good. These are on the more expensive side, so they do start at around $8,850, but you are getting a lot of watch for the money. And this, I think, is a really good looking version of the Supernova. A brand that I talk about here on my channel very often. However, they don't release new watches very often at all. It is Maran Musi. Maran Musi are a brand that have been around for a little while now. They are an independent brand, a very high-end independent brand that don't use any plastic gaskets in their case making. So they machine parts of their case, usually in grade 5 titanium, to such a high degree that they fit together without the need for plastic gaskets to achieve 300 meters of water resistance. They also make smaller watches in 41 millimeters that get 100 meters of water resistance. You get the same treatment there. They don't require any plastic gaskets. Their larger watches, which are 44 millimeters, get 300 meters of water resistance. They just recently came out with 4 different limited edition versions for the US only, and these are extremely limited editions. They've made a yellow dial and an orange dial. Both of those are only limited to 5 pieces each. They are based on the MU-03, which is essentially their entry-level watch. However, this does get a beautiful Le Jour Perret movement, which is bespoke for the brand. It is used in a lot higher-end watches outside of their group, but it is a bespoke version of this Le Jour Perret movement, and it is really, really cool. Also, they came out with 2-piece uniques. I believe these are all priced around $20,000. One gets a wood dial, so this is a black wood dial, and the other gets a green fume dial. And I am excited that they are focusing in on the US market by making a limited edition only available to the US market. The way that they do this is if you have bought a watch from them in the past here in the United States, they give you the option to buy these limited editions first. So you get the option to buy a piece unique before anybody else can buy it if you purchased from them before and you are in their club. So they immediately enter you into their club if you've purchased in the past. That's how I know about these watches. I think they are really, really cool. Specifically that orange dial and the green dial. I really, really like both of those. But they are very, very limited, so I would imagine they're not going to last very long. Check them out if you are interested. Last but not least, and a release that I am a little bit confused by, Raymond Weil released a new ART, integrated bracelet watch. The ART stands for Art, Refinement, and Timekeeping. I think it's a really horrible name for a watch that looks almost like an homage to the IWC Ingenieur. And I say almost like it's an homage to the IWC Ingenieur. It's a 38mm integrated bracelet watch with 100 meters of water resistance. However, it costs $2,000. It does not get on the fly micro adjust, and it gets a standard Sellita SW200. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me when you're comparing it to the Mito that I was talking about before, which gets a Powermatic 80 hours of power reserve, not a standard Sellita SW200. And of course that gets 100 meters of water resistance, so does this. That looks more like its own design than this watch does. This looks like an homage, and it's $2,000. So this was one of the releases that really sort of caught my interest for the wrong reasons, and that's why I wanted to put it on this list. Anyway, guys, tell me what you think of the watches that I spoke about in this video. I like to hear from you guys. Are there any other releases that I should have mentioned in this video? Tell me in the comments below. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Thanks for logging on, and I will catch you guys in the next video.